here with me in this room on the auspicious occasion of Gudi Padwa. The new year is being heralded today with this wonderful occasion. And I thank you, Dan, for your good wishes. And I'm sure we in India believe that everything that starts on this auspicious day.
Mr. Minister, you're not audible, sir.
Have you muted me somewhere? Now can you hear me? क्या हुआ भाई? Hello, can you hear me now? दे दो, ले आओ। Is this better, Dan? Can you hear me? No, I think there's something wrong with the audio link. Technology, eh? Hello? 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 Would your volume, can you once check the volume at your end, because we are showing transmission from here. Manpreet, can you hear us? High Commissioner? High Commissioner, are you able to hear us? Hello.
Hi, Department of Commerce. This is DFAT, just letting you know that we're not able to hear you over the WebEx at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. They're just trying
We're
to
hearing
say.
you briefly, Piyush.
We can hear you now, sir.
Oh, great.
Great.
Can you hear us, Francis?
You now as well. Thank you so much.
Great. My apologies for that technical hitch. My good friend, Minister Dan Tehan, all the friends who have joined us on this auspicious occasion, both virtually and in the room here today, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. Indeed delighted that we are assembled on this very auspicious day, Gudi Padwa, when we celebrate the Hindu New Year. It is believed in India, Dan, that everything started on this day is bound to be a big success. and all good things you try to initiate on an auspicious day when we are also starting our Navratri celebrations, 9 days where all of us pray to the goddess to give us strength to face adversity and give us confidence to go forward in life. I am sure the coming years and years mark the fulfillment of the dreams and aspirations of over 1 billion people in India and the millions in Australia. I am delighted to share with all of you friends that today, under the esteemed presence of Honourable Prime Minister of Australia, Mr. Scott Morrison, and Honourable Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement was signed. This agreement, the Indus Ekta, will be symbolic of the deep unity, cooperation and friendship between two trusted partners, friends, allies. It truly symbolizes not only our ekta, our unity, but also our deep bonds between the people of both nations. It's a historic day for India and Australia relations. It is particularly very important for India because it's the first agreement with a large developed economy in the last decade. I am truly grateful to the leaders of both countries, Australia and India, who have guided and motivated us to complete the agreement in a truly cooperative manner, understanding each other's sensitivities. I cannot but emphasize how much a deep role Minister Tehan has played. I thank him for his wholehearted support, his understanding, and his friendship. My deep sense of appreciation to Mr. Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia, who, as the Special Trade Envoy of the Right Honourable Prime Minister Morrison, has also helped facilitate the negotiations faster. I am grateful to both teams led by Francis and Mr. Amit Yadav for their outstanding round-the-clock work. With the time difference in both countries, I doubt there was any day of the week, and more often than not, including the weekends, when we were not engaged, the teams were not engaged late into the Australian hours or occasionally very early into the Indian hours. So truly reflecting our status as natural partners, connected by shared values of democracy, the rule of law and transparency, apart from our shared love for cricket, food, movies, and tourism. Like two brothers, both nations supported each other during the adverse period of COVID. But I can assure you, friends from the media, that we have miles to go in this relationship, and today marks that important milestone from where I hope this relationship will truly take off. Our trust and reliability between the two friends is deeply reflected also in our geopolitical engagement through the Quad and the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. Indus Ekta covers a wide gamut of trade and commercial relations between the two countries. We are removing trade barriers and opening a plethora of opportunities in both goods and services, which would lead to a doubling of our trade in the near future. Great potential for labor-oriented sectors in India like textiles, pharmaceuticals, gem and jewelry, leather, huge potential for engineering goods, the automobile and auto component sector. Also, an encouragement to our IT industry and the startup ecosystem to look at deeper engagement with Australia. This will also give a leg up to hospitality sector, both in India and Australia, and also help skilled young boys and girls to contribute to each other's economies. We have a number of students who study in Australia, who are working in Australia, and I am sure this will send a very, very positive message to our students and the Indian diaspora living in Australia. It will also create new opportunities in both countries, help raise the standard of living, bring prosperity to our people, and enhance the welfare of our citizen. In fact, by initial estimates, we expect at least a 1 million job creation in India in the next 4 to 5 years. In services also, we have expanded the scope of our bilateral relations. India has offered services and access to services on many sectors to Australia, and likewise very fairly and equitably reciprocated by Australia. A number of new opportunities will open up for Indian chefs and yoga instructors also in the years to come. Post-study work visas for our young boys and girls who are going to Australia are also a part of this agreement, as is our desire to expand mutual cooperation, particularly in the field of education. And going forward, Minister Tehan, who's been a former education minister, and I have also discussed the possibilities of dual degrees and cooperation between our wonderful educational institutions. Adequate safeguards have been provided for both countries' business persons, and a number of new elements have been introduced in this agreement, particularly, for example, in terms of melt and pour, to ensure that locally produced steel products go from one country to the other. Access to the pharma industry has been made simpler, thanks very much to the personal efforts of Minister Tehan, which will help us provide very, very high quality medicines to the Australian people at affordable prices, thereby bringing down their costs on medical treatment. At the end, I would like to say our work doesn't end here. In fact, it begins today. We will work with all our stakeholders to realize the full potential of this agreement. I shall be visiting Australia next week to talk to the business persons in Australia, along with a large business delegation from India, to build the bridges and greater economic cooperation between business persons and our diaspora in Australia and in India. I am confident that Indus Ekta, our unity in trade, our unity as good friends, our unity as trusted partners, will herald a new era of trade and commercial ties, taking this relationship to greater heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Tehan and Minister Goyal, for those very comprehensive remarks. We'll now start with this question and answer session. First to go, Anand Narasimhan from Network 18. Yes, please. Yes. Please go ahead.
Namaste, Minister Goyal, and Namaste, Minister Tehan. Greetings on this occasion of the Shubhakrut Vikram Samvatsar 2079. It's a very, very important moment because when we say the year of Shubhakrut, it means we are leaving the pain and misery of the pandemic behind and looking at goodness and growth. So let's hope collectively for all of that. But this is a process which has taken nearly a decade for the Indus Ekta to come about, the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. And it is coming at a very critical time when Bharat is looking at becoming Atmanirbhar and looking forward to its Amrit Kal, the next 25 years. And Australia is looking very keenly to reduce its dependence on China and looking towards India. My question to you is this an interim agreement or what are the contours?
I think this agreement did not take a decade. Discussions had started a decade ago, but were aborted when the previous government decided that they would like India to join the RCEP agreement, and therefore the bilateral discussions were kept on hold. As you are all aware, because we were not fully convinced and happy with the transparency and openness of certain economies in the RCEP, India decided not to participate in RCEP, and it is only in September last year, 30th of September last year, that both Minister Tehan and I decided to start negotiating the new engagement between the two countries. Our partnership has been going from strength to strength in the last few years. In fact, the current year's data, which has just come out for the year ended 31st March 2022, shows our exports to Australia have grown the highest compared to any other country in the last 12 months, showing the deep strength in this relationship. So we are looking forward to taking the same speed of negotiations. Hardly 6 months, 30th of September, we launched our negotiations, and we are on 2nd of April. And I think it's been a wonderful experience working with Australia. They have provided 100% access to all Indian goods. Almost 97% of our trade as soon as this agreement comes into force, after the processes are completed on both ends, and the rest over 5 years. India has also provided significant market access of, I believe, nearly 85-90% of our trade, and a large part of it is immediately as we enter into force. We have also looked at areas of interest between both countries and ensured that market access is provided in those areas of interest. Simultaneously, both countries have been very fair and reasonable in terms of local sensitivities on issues related to trade, related to services, and have truly respected each other's sensitivities. And therefore, I believe this is a win-win agreement between both countries. Minister Tehan, would you like to say something?
Thanks, Piyush. And yes, can I just re-emphasise what you've said? When we met in September last year, negotiations was stalled between our two countries, and we had a pull aside for about 15 minutes to discuss where we would go and what we needed to do for our bilateral relationship. That ended up being us enjoying the most wonderful Indian meal over 3 hours while we discussed what we should do about our bilateral relationship. And you and I agreed that we should embark on an interim agreement, an interim economic agreement. And what has ensued over the last 7 to 8 months is that we have put together now an agreement which we will register at the World Trade Organization. It is a substantial agreement, and it's one which will pave the way for our two economies to continue to grow into the future. And this document will be a living document. This unity agreement that we've put together will be a living document. What we're going to see is our economies grow together. They're going to integrate together. their complementarity is there for all to see. And now we have the opportunity to make sure that we really benefit from that complementarity. And I can see through the years ahead that this agreement will evolve, it will continue to grow, and it will continue to ensure that our two economies join together to provide the type of economic environment that the Indo-Pacific region needs at this time. So can I thank you once again for the way that you and your officials have entered into these negotiations, for the hard work night and day. I know ourselves, we were talking on a daily basis, if not twice a day. At times you were calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning, and at other times you were calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning. But I can say never was a crossword spoken. We always did it with big smiles on our faces. We knew it would be hard, but we knew that the outcome would be worth it for both our countries. And that very long Indian lunch in September last year has now led to this wonderful agreement that we have before us today. And I thank you for that.
Next question from Shreya Nandi, please.
Hello, Minister Goyal. Hello, Minister. Hello, Minister Goyal, and hello, Minister Tehan. So my question is for both of you. So which areas of services do we see, getting benefits or being included as a part of the agreement? And apart from services, what are the sectors that we see massive benefits from the agreement?
Minister Tehan, you want to go first?
Well, I mean, I think what we will see is both economies benefit from this agreement in a substantial way. For Australia, we will get wonderful access, for instance, to the wine market in India. When it comes to coal, we will be able to send our coal to India now duty-free, which is also wonderful for our coal producers here in Australia. When it comes to our wool producers, we will be able to send Australian wool to India now duty-free. And we produce the largest wool clip in the world and the best wool. So that will be able to enter India duty-free. When it comes to our sheep meat also, we will be able to send our sheep meat to India duty-free. So these are substantial outcomes. But as Minister Goyal mentioned, in the services sector as well, we've both opened up our economies in 31 key service areas, which will benefit both nations, and in particular in areas like construction and engineering, where we will be able to work together to help our infrastructure needs. We have huge infrastructure investment pipeline here in Australia, and we look ready, we're willing to work with India to help them or help you with your infrastructure needs. So there are benefits across the board when you look at what it means between the movement of people between Australia. We're going to be welcoming Indian backpackers to Australia. We also will be giving post-study work rights to Indian students who get first-class honours in the science, technology, engineering and mathematical fields, in the IT fields. So once again, that wonderful capability that you have in those areas will help us, but also it will enable Australian students to be able to go to India and help you with your needs as well. So there are benefits right across the board when it comes to this agreement. And what we always set out to do was to make sure that this would underpin both countries' economies, underpin the complementarity of those economies, and ensure that over time it also could continue to grow. As I said before, this is a living, working document which will continue to see us enhance it and make sure that as our economies grow, as they change, we can also make sure that this agreement continues to provide that economic unity that we're both looking for.
Thank you, Minister Tehan. I can only add that this truly is an agreement which is very balanced on the services side. It opens up opportunities in both sides for many, many high-class sectors, where in terms of research and development, where in terms of high technology, India will stand to gain from Australia's work over many years. We'll stand to gain with many high-quality raw materials that Australia sends to India already in a big way. Similarly, on services, there are very deep arrangements made in this agreement. For example, we are looking at mutual recognition agreement between professional bodies on both sides, just like we have for chartered accountants, for other sectors. And we'll be working over the next 12 months to identify sectors and have mutual recognition agreements between the two countries. They have been kind enough to welcome our yoga instructors and Indian chefs in Australia. A post-study work visa of between 2 and 4 years will be available for Indian students who study well, more particularly for our STEM graduates who go from India to Australia, and we'll be able to contribute to the research and development and the educational ecosystem in Australia. I must also mention that there are over 100,000 Indian students presently living in Australia and studying there. This straightaway will benefit many of them or most of them, and over the years, many more Indian young boys and girls who will be going will stand to benefit. We are also looking at a work and holiday visa arrangement to promote greater exchange on both sides, so that we can have greater tourism also, and our young boys and girls build the bridges between the two nations. I'm grateful that Australia has agreed to resolve a long pending double taxation agreement arrangement issue, which was going on for some time between our IT sector, our Indian IT industry providing high quality, very valuable services to support the Australian economy. That issue has also been finally resolved between the two countries. There are sectoral gains for many sectors, computer-related services, professional services like accounting, taxation, architectural services, engineering, integrated engineering, urban planning and landscape architectural services, where both countries have very high quality professionals who can engage with each other and deepen this relationship. We are looking at greater cooperation in the field of education, audiovisual services, research and development, telecommunication, construction, environmental services, and both are very conscious of our responsibility towards sustainability. I think we have a lot to learn from the Australians on tourism. They are truly a joy when it comes to the tourism facilities that they have set up, and Minister Tehan also looks after tourism. I personally, my first visit to Australia many, many years ago as a tourist with 2 small kids, have memorable stories about my journeys there. Of course, I've also paid a lot of speeding tickets as a tourist in Australia, because the roads are so beautiful, and you just tended to speed up and landed up with huge penalties for speeding. But a great lesson after that. I've never got a single speeding ticket in my life ever. Also, the way they have developed water sports, the way they have developed the whole ecosystem of tourism is something India can hugely benefit with, considering the large amount of beautiful places in India. So it's a win-win for both countries, And thank you very much, Den, for all your support and from your teams. Thank you.
James, over to you for the next set of questions. James?
Hi, sorry. Oh, hi. Yes, sorry, Sharoni here. So from Reuters, we have Sam McKeith.
Yeah, hi there, Minister. I hope you can hear me. My question is, given it's taken several years to get to this point, how long do you expect it to take to execute a full agreement, and what do you see as the major challenges to get that done?
Well, thanks for the question, Sam. And can I say, first of all, really it's taken us 7 months or 8 months to get where we are today. Negotiations were stalled when I went to India in September last year. And what we've been able to do in this very short period of time is put together an agreement of such substance that it will be registered with the World Trade Organization. Now, there is still further conversations and further discussions to be had about where we go into the future with the agreement, and we both Piyush and myself saw it very much as an interim agreement. So once we have the agreement implemented, we will then sit down and work out where we need to go from here. But it's going to already lead to an incredible evolving of the India-Australia economic relationship. As Piyush mentioned, opportunities in tourism, and I was able to sign a tourism MOU with Minister Goyal when I was in India recently, 2 months ago. We obviously have put a lot of effort into how we market Australia as a tourism destination, our tourism infrastructure. But as a 16-year-old boy, along with my 5 brothers and sisters and parents, I had the wonderful, wonderful experience of visiting India for 5 weeks. And the enormous potential for India as a tourism destination knows no bounds. The wonderful welcome and warmth we got from the Indian people at that time when we travelled around India is something which has always stayed with me. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why, as Australia's Trade Minister, I could not be prouder today having signed this agreement, because the experiences that I had with my family travelling around India many, many years ago has stayed with me to this day. And it's why I think today is so special for our two nations. So whether it be in tourism, whether it be in higher education, vocational education, whether it be in the mutual recognition of standards, making sure that our professional bodies can work together and integrate further, making sure that other parts of our economies over time can get the type of market access that has been achieved today. All these things we will continue to work on, and I'm sure if we put the same time and effort into the last 7 months as we do when we seek to finalise this agreement, we'll be able to do it in a very short period of time. Over to you, Piyush.
I fully echo Minister Tehan's sentiments. Of course, Minister, you did not mention about your train journeys in India. When you visited India, you had talked to me about it, but I can tell you it's a transformed railway system in India. And the next time you're here, we hope we can take you on a train ride also. But thank you, Sam, for your question. And truly, our belief is there are many other areas, for example, sustainability. There's many areas like digital engagement between the two countries. So we have identified a lot of work for our teams to do. We have identified a lot of potential areas of greater cooperation, as should trusted friends be doing. We are looking at resilient supply chains between the two countries. I've only recently talked to a very large logistics company to see how we can expand direct access through shipping and transocean movement of goods becoming faster directly from India to Australia and vice versa. So we have a lot of things to cover, a lot of ground to cover. I'm sure we will work with the same spirit and enthusiasm to cover many more areas of mutual engagement. And we'll do it fast. We have plans to try and conclude it in the same kind of accelerated manner soon after this current agreement comes into force. We'll get down to cracking the whip on the next stage to make this a comprehensive economic partnership. Thank you very much.
James, do we have
Thank
the
you very
second?
much, ministers. Now, John Mayer, please.
Thank you.
I might be having technical troubles. No other Australia. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, John.
Okay.
Yes.
Minister, this agreement comes just as Australia is about to go into an election campaign. Is it an interim agreement and then the negotiations for the full agreement set up in such a way that, if you were to change portfolio after the election or if there was a change of government, that things would progress? There's been a lot of talk about the personal connection behind the deal. So just wondering if this is secure if there is a change in circumstances after the Australian election.
Look, the relationships between our two countries is bigger and broader than any two individuals, although this agreement has benefited from the extraordinary relationship that Prime Minister Modi has with Prime Minister Morrison, and likewise the friendship that I've been able to strike up with Minister Goyal over the last 12 to 14 months that I've been Australia's Trade Minister. But of course, if individuals change, the strength of the economic partnership that we're establishing today won't. And I'm very confident that we will see that partnership continue to evolve under this very important unity agreement that we've signed today. But can I also just make the point that these agreements very much, that the basis and foundation of them always is dependent on making sure that you have very, very good working relations. And whether it be our chief negotiators, Francis and Amit, they did a wonderful job and they worked so well and so cooperatively together. Our negotiating teams, whether it be on the services, on the goods, obviously there was negotiating with regards to the double taxation agreement. In all these areas, there was a true spirit of cooperation to make sure that we can get the job done. And as long as those who precede us over time, and I'm hoping I'll be in this portfolio for some time to come yet, that they'll be able to build on the special relationship that has been developed in negotiating this agreement. So I have very strong hope, no matter who fills our chairs going forward, we'll be able to continue to grow and enhance the relationship, and in particular, build on this groundbreaking agreement. Piyush?
Thank you very much, Dan. And John, I can only say that both countries are vibrant democracies. At the same time, we both believe in continuity in government. So elections will come and go. I think nations survive beyond elections. Our people and the relationship between our people, our government officials working together in this spirit of partnership and engagement, and governments at the political level committed to continuity is what both countries reflect. In fact, my own party came into government in 2014, and I can share with you, we never went back on a single decision concluded and finalized by the previous government. So we in India equally believe, like Australia, that governments work for the benefit of both nations, for the people, for national interest, and decisions are permanent. Thank you. And of course, we'll work towards the final agreement together as soon as this one gets entry into force. Thank you.
They'll be closing. James? So thank you so much.
The ministers,
Yes.
given the time allotted, maybe we have time for 2 more questions on your end, and
Right.
then we might have to call an end to this press conference. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next question from Amrish. Would you want to go ahead?
So can we expect a full-fledged deal between both these countries, and what all will include other than this, and by when, any timeline?
Well, as I said, that this itself is a very substantial agreement. It's no more remain the interim agreement that we had set out to originally finalize. It covers a very, very wide array of goods and services and trade between the two nations. But we both believe there's huge amount of cooperation possible in the digital world, in the startup world, in the field of education, in the field, as I said, of mutual recognition of professional services between the two countries. There's a lot of work we have to do on sustainability. So we have very ambitious plans to grow this relationship, and therefore, as soon as this part comes into force, we'll be working together for a much, much more comprehensive and enhanced trade and commercial partnership. Thank you.
Next question, Bunny Kinker, Financial Express. Two questions.
My question is, what's the level of trade that both the countries are targeting once this ACTA agreement comes into force?
I will just make 1 or 2 comments, and I'll request Dan also to supplement. We have about 26, 27 billions of US dollars worth of trade currently between the two nations bilaterally. My own sense is this will double at best in 5 years. And I think if our business persons take interest the way I have seen, the enthusiasm that I've seen in my extensive stakeholder consultation, we've had huge consultations with export promotion councils, industry associations, sectoral engagement with industry, large and small both. It seems to suggest that this is going to open up huge opportunities on both sides. And therefore, doubling should not take very long. But you know that I'm a very ambitious person, and so is Dan. We are not going to be satisfied with that. We're going to set very, very aggressive targets to expand this relationship to much greater heights in the years to come. Thank you.
And like Piyush, I can see that this agreement will lead to a doubling of our two-way trade in the coming years. There is no question that won't happen. And I think it will benefit both nations extraordinarily well. And not only will we see the trade in goods and services double, but that will bring with it an investment partnership that will also benefit both nations. So doubling of two-way trade, enhanced investment as a result, and further economic cooperation. They're all the things we'll see as a result of this agreement.
James, any last questions on your side?
Sorry, thanks a lot. I don't believe so. If no more questions, I think we can call this press conference to an end. Thank you everyone for attending, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, all our colleagues from Australia and the media persons from both countries. Grateful for your support, and I wish you well, Dan. and looking forward to meeting you next week. Thank you. Namaste.
I can't wait to welcome you here in Australia with your delegation, Piyush. It'll be a wonderful occasion. So thank you very much as well.
Thank you.
Friends, the joint press conference is over, but Honorable Minister has kindly agreed to answer a few more questions. But first, we would want to have you to have a look at two short, beautiful videos which we have made. Videos, can we play the videos? Sir.
भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया अपने द्विपक्षीय साझेदारी को ऐतिहासिक दिशा देने की कगार पर हैं। समान संवैधानिक, आर्थिक व सामरिक दृष्टिकोण के साथ-साथ भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया क्वाड का हिस्सा हैं। भारत के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के प्रधानमंत्री स्कॉट मॉरिसन की पारस्परिक वैचारिक समानताएं और भौगोलिक दृष्टि से महत्वपूर्ण भारत प्रशांत क्षेत्र पर उनका एक सा नजरिया भी भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया को अपने संबंधों को और भी प्रगाढ़ करने की दिशा में ले जा रहा है। उनके इसी दूरदर्शी नेतृत्व का एक अध्याय है इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एंड ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट, यानी इंडस एकता। इंडस एकता दोनों ही देशों के मौजूदा आर्थिक संबंधों को और भी दृढ़ता प्रदान करेगा। इससे जहां एक ओर भारतीय वस्तुओं को ऑस्ट्रेलिया के बाजार में बिना किसी शुल्क के अपना उत्पाद बेचने का अवसर मिलेगा, वहीं ऑस्ट्रेलियाई उत्पाद को भी भारत के विशाल बाजार में अपना स्थान मिलेगा। इंडस एकता से भारत के श्रम प्रधान उद्योग जैसे कपड़ा एवं वस्त्र, लेदर उत्पाद, इंजीनियरिंग उत्पाद, जेम्स एवं ज्वेलरी जैसे क्षेत्रों को भी नए अवसर व नए आयाम मिलेंगे। इंडस एकता भारत में 10 लाख से अधिक रोजगार के अवसर भी सृजित करेगा। इनके अलावा एकता के अन्य लाभों में शामिल हैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पढ़ रहे भारतीय विद्यार्थियों को पढ़ाई समाप्त होने के बाद 4 वर्ष तक के वर्क वीजा की सुविधा, जिससे अभी पढ़ रहे लगभग 1 लाख और भविष्य में लाखों भारतीय विद्यार्थियों को इसका लाभ मिलेगा। भारतीय पर्यटकों को 6 महीने के रोजगार वीजा का प्रावधान, योग एवं भारतीय व्यंजन के प्रचार प्रसार के लिए योग गुरुओं और भारतीय शेफ्स को वीजा सुविधा, भारत में निर्मित दवाइयों को फास्ट ट्रैक अप्रूवल से ऑस्ट्रेलियाई बाजार में प्रवेश की सुविधा भी मिलेगी। इंडस एकता से द्विपक्षीय व्यापार, जो अभी लगभग 2 लाख करोड़ रुपए का है, अगले 5 वर्षों में लगभग 3.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए तक पहुंचने का अनुमान है। निसंदेह इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एंड ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट यानी इंडस एकता भारतीय तथा ऑस्ट्रेलियाई नेतृत्व द्वारा अभूतपूर्व पहल है। ये विश्व के 2 विशाल देशों को जहां एक ओर आर्थिक तौर पर निकट लाएगा, वहीं वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की भावना से प्रेरित होकर आत्मनिर्भर भारत मुहिम को नई दिशा व गति प्रदान करेगा। इंडस एकता इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एंड ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट।
The second video, please, the English one. Yeah.
India and Australia are strategic partners. Under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India-Australia relationship has grown from strength to strength. His vision of export-led growth and local for global has now fructified. The long-standing bilateral relationship between the two countries is poised to enter a new historic high in 2022. The countries are now an important step closer to facilitating stronger trade relations and people-to-people contact, underpinned by shared democratic doctrines and mutual interests. The Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, India-Australia Ekta, will significantly benefit the two nations by maximizing their strengths and focusing on their untapped potential, all towards a sustainable and promising future. What does this agreement mean? India gets 100% market access in Australia for its goods, benefiting labor-intensive industries like textiles, leather goods and footwear, engineering goods, and articles of jewelry, creating over 10 lakh jobs in the country. Australia gains better market access for its products in the large and growing Indian market. The bilateral trade is expected to grow from 27.5 billion USD today to about 45 billion USD in the next 5 years.
इन उभरती टेक्नोलॉजी में उचित वैश्विक मापदंड अपनाए जाए, ओपन और इंक्लूसिव इंडो पैसिफिक के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता को दर्शाता है.
High quality education in various streams makes Australia an appealing destination for Indian students. Post-study work visa will benefit 1 lakh Indian students studying in Australia at present and lakhs of students in the future. Fast-track approvals will be given for Indian pharma products, making its entry into the $12 billion Australian market easier. Yoga teachers and Indian chefs will get visas and would facilitate rich cultural exchanges.
Our comprehensive strategic partnership, though, reflects the ambition that we share and we hold for our relationship. And the pace and scale of that cooperation since we lifted ties back in 2020 has been remarkable.
This economic cooperation and trade agreement is just the beginning. It's the foundation for many more building blocks. Blocks that will build closer cooperation and unlock newer opportunities by eliminating trade barriers, encouraging investments, and generating employment opportunities. India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. India-Australia Ekta. History in the making.
Sir, so we'll have some more questions. So Rajiv from Hindustan Times, next.
Sir, you have signed UAE agreement. Now this Australia. What is the next?
Ye dil mange more. We are in very active dialogue with the United Kingdom, with Canada. With both of these countries also we have agreed that we could have an interim agreement which can be done faster, followed by a more comprehensive arrangement. We have launched with the European Union, I think in July last year, and Commerce Secretary would be visiting Brussels, I think next week, to firm up the timelines and the scope of agreement. We are also in dialogue with Israel, and we have received interest from the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC countries, to bring together all the 6 nations of the GCC into a comprehensive economic partnership with India. So a lot of work cut out for our officials and a lot of more sleepless nights for all of us to serve the nation better and take forward this historic high of $400 billion plus exports to even greater levels. On goods alone, of course. Services figures are awaited.
Right. Siddharth, next question.
Sir, while tariffs have been reduced, how are our exporters going to deal with the standards, which often act as non-tariff barriers? Number one. Number two, what is the cutoff price for wine above which duties will be lowered? And sir, third, are there any sectors that have discussed for signing MRAs in coming months?
Thank you very much, Siddharth. In terms of standards, I myself was very conscious that there should not be any non-tariff barriers. And therefore, I had very extensive stakeholder consultation, whether it's textile, whether it's footwear, whether it's our auto sector, auto components, engineering exports, carpets, handlooms, handicrafts. I've lost track. In fact, that data is available. I'll ask somebody to take it out from my Australia notes. I'll share with you the amount of stakeholder consultations we had. And you won't believe it. Not a single person, not a single industry sector said that in Australia we are having any market access problems. I was really amazed and delighted to hear that. In fact, that encouraged me to go fast track into this negotiation. On pharma, there was a particular reason why we had extensive negotiations. And they were so kind as to accept our drug controller, our industry experts. So a business delegation led by our drug controller and the commerce, our chief negotiator, Mr. Yadav, actually flew down to Australia, spent a week there, and has finalized such an excellent way forward. Not that pharma was being stopped, but it was a long drawn process. And because of the time taken, very often our industry was losing interest. So now they have accepted that anybody who has who's been accepted by the European Union or Canada, with whom they have equivalence agreements. Anybody who's got a product or a factory cleared by EU or Canada, and you are aware that we are large exporters to these regions, they can use that data to fast track the approval in Australia. So that way the one sector which would take time has also got resolved. And nobody else talked to me. Having said that, we have talked of two things, Minister Tehan and I. One, that in the next 12 months, we'll have an aggressive engagement to expand mutual recognition agreements. And you know that since I'm working with BIS, I've shared it with our friends from the media, that I'm seriously working on one nation, one standard, which is the Honorable Prime Minister's direction to me. I'm working to strengthen our laboratories. I've been making surprise checks to laboratories to get a pulse of how we can improve. You've seen the success story of hallmarking and assaying of jewelry, which has got implemented after 20 years in India. So we today have a nation where both consumers and business, both are engaging standards. Both are adopting high quality as their mantra. So with that confidence, I think market access will not be denied. On wines, I'm happy to share with you that the entire industry has been consulted on multiple occasions, including, of course, at official level, but at my level also. Multiple engagements with the wine industry in India. We have protected them more than what they had asked. They had given us certain suggestions that if you open up with a minimum import price, we'll be able to compete comfortably. They did all the costing calculations, very extensive stakeholders, including with large wineries, and their commitment was available with us. What could be a price? We've gone very, very conservative. $5 per 750 ml wine bottle will be the minimum import price, beyond which concessions will start. And our Indian wine industry doesn't make that high value or high cost wines. So there's no threat to Indian wines. Having said that, it will open up new opportunities for all of us to upgrade our wineries, upgrade our production. We have discussed about technical cooperation and collaboration between Indian wineries and Australian wineries, so that our own market, which is very nascent at this stage, can expand significantly in the coming years. So we have both looked at protecting our wine industry, but expanding our own scope to, in the long run, become wine makers of relevance and exporting our wine to other parts of the world. Of course, our winemakers also will get full access at zero duty in Australia. So it's truly a remarkable gesture on Australia's part to give our wine, our whiskey, all our liquor, alcohol industry also full access. And in terms of MRAs, we are looking at sectors like medical services, nursing. So various sectors that we are working on. We have identified a few, but we are open to more suggestions. Thank you.
Okay, any last questions before we close? Sorry. Any last questions before we close? Thank you all. Thank you, Honorable Minister. We would like you to join for lunch, which is going to be laid out in a short while from now.
Thank you, friends.